I suck at jiu-jitsu. How do I suck less at jiu-jitsu?
I guess to suck less.
The diabolical leader of the Headlock
Hey everybody, this is Josh McKinney, and I just want to welcome you to the newest episode of the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show. So today I have a new haircut. Hey, let's just address it immediately. The hair is different. You guys can tell, I can tell. It was just time. It was time to get rid of the long hair. I'm going to explain it to you guys a little bit more in the Jiu-Jitsu is Pro Wrestling episode that will be coming out in just a couple of weeks. Next week, we are going to start the Jiu-Jitsu is series. That has been the plan for me to do when I kind of get a little time off the podcast when my first son is born. And my wife and I have been planning and expecting it to come a little early. And so I've always had that just some of these episodes planned of like, I'm just going to be able to turn them on and then the Jiu-Jitsu is series will start. But as it so happens, it looks like we're going to reach the due date, or at least as of recording time, we're reaching the due date. And so it will start on my wife's due date, and that will be next week. Also, at the top of the program, wanted to make sure to mention, I am constantly being asked, and people do love that create content or that want to create content. They love to do this thing where they say, oh, I am being asked ... And the truth is, most of the time they're not. No, you weren't. No one asked you what you do for your strength and conditioning routine. You're fat and you have no cardio. No one's ever asked you that question. But I actually have been asked a lot recently, almost an annoying amount recently, as to when we're going to be doing I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show rash guards, when we're going to be doing the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show gi. And I am happy to announce that next week, next Tuesday, I'm going to be giving you guys information on how, on the new set, the new imposed will, shorts and rash guard, and the new imposed will I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show gi. And I know that there are a lot of people that listen to the podcast that didn't purchase the last time we did the big batch order. And the reason was, for a lot of people, it's like, hey, I don't do no-gi. And the no-gi gear is very flamboyant, and I don't know if I want to purchase that. I get that. But we are going to be able to have a gi this time too. And it's also flamboyant. It's also over the top, but I think you guys will really like it too. And so that starts next week. If you guys are on the Gi Gazette, you will get a day early to start the purchase or start the pre-order, but it will actually go on from October 9th through the 31st. Okay. So you have plenty of time to order. And then I want to say it only took 4 weeks last time before people got their sets, but I think 6 weeks is probably what you should plan for. And it just so happens that if we put in the order November 1st, 6 weeks later, it's going to be around Christmas time. So if you're trying to, let your wife know, let your husband know, hey, I just want, one thing for Christmas. And it's like, oh, what is that? I just want a shopping cart full of I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show gear, only available at imposedwill.com. You guys will be able to check that out starting next week. But today's episode, I have a listener mail is kind of where this episode came from. And I'm really just going to talk about getting beat up and what that's like and how you can learn from it. And I'm going to give some real examples of matches that I've lost and experiences that I've had that have changed my perspective on jiu-jitsu and have helped me so much in the future. And so it's going to be maybe an episode that makes you go, oh, so that's why he named it the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show. And but without further ado, let's go ahead and get into today's episode. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started for today's episode. So today I got a message. Actually, it was a couple of days ago. I got a message from one of my brown belts, and she had a question for the show. One of my brown belts that happens to be an author, Mindy Foster, MK Foster, sorry. Didn't mean to spoil your first name, Mindy. But just a little shout out. I've been reading The Daily Dose, her newest book. It's a daily devotional for mental health. And I'll make sure to throw a link in the description of this episode for that, because I'm not really somebody, I think everybody has some struggle with mental health, but I'm really not somebody that seems to have a lot of struggle with mental health. And I'm 4 days in on the Daily Dose, and it's been gold for me, especially during a time where I have a baby on the way, and you're you're supposed to be anxious. People look at worry like it's this thing that you should be doing, and getting to read about taking my thoughts captive and not doing that, and not being worried about these things that are out of my control. That has been really, really amazing for me. And just wanted to recommend that book. But anyway, let's look at something else that she has written. And it was a question for the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show. And it was just, she sent me a question of like, hey, next time you do a Q&A episode, it was, what's your first memory of when you were introduced to high-level BJJ? Like a rolling session that left you baffled by someone's technique. And what is beautiful about jiu-jitsu? She asks me this question, and I start to like play in my head, like, okay, well, what was that time for me? And as I thought about it more, and as I kind of tried to think through that question, I started to realize it's actually happened a lot of different times. There have been a lot of different times where I was exposed to what felt like another level. And there's kind of a few different ways that we can look at this, but this is kind of why I wanted it to be a whole episode. I'm going to give you guys two very specific matches. I only think one of them's online. The other one will keep offline forever. I have video of it, but I will not share it. It's a rough one. Maybe I should. Maybe it's worth sharing because it's such a rough one. But I have two different experiences I'll talk about later on in the episode where I actually lost matches and without a doubt got some of my best, I don't even know what you would call them, epiphanies from those specific matches, and really have created part of my game around those specific matches. If you guys notice, my voice is going in and out in this episode. It is not my microphone. It is my actual voice. We had the St. Louis Invitational, the second one, and I had multiple competitors on it. And then there's just a lot of tag team on it. And I'm a wild man anyway. I have no voice from that. That was 2 days ago, and I expect to not have a voice for a couple more days. But the show must go on, right? We got to be podcasting. And so the big thing that I wanted to kind of start with, though, is how in jiu-jitsu you can get the best knowledge, and you can roll with the best guys in the world, and you can get exposed to all of these, what a lot of people would be very lucky to get to experience, and a lot of people would consider very high level. But the truth is, when you aren't good enough yet, you really can't understand even what that high level is. And so like for me, the examples that I'm going to give, they don't even start until brown belt. And I had experienced getting to train with all these high level guys before that, and getting to compete with high level guys before that. But I don't think that I was good enough yet to even have my mind blown. So many people that train think they're getting really close to being able to beat the best guy in their gym or beat their instructor. And so often you're not even close at all. but you're so bad, you can't even recognize how much space there is in between you and your coach, right? And so when people set these goals of jiu-jitsu and they're like, I'm on day one, I want to do ... For instance, I had a guy on day one tell me that his goal was that he would one day get to be across the mat from Gordon Ryan. And my response was, well, then you better show up tomorrow. And sure enough, he didn't. And so you can set these great goals and say, oh, my goal is to beat my coach. My goal is to beat this guy at the gym. My goal is to beat this other competitor. My goal is to compete against Gordon Ryan. But the truth is, a lot of times people will set these goals as a way to say that they're going to do something, and then they don't actually know how to take things in small enough bites to even have any chance to do that thing. And so when you're starting out in white belt, when you're starting out even as a blue belt, even as a purple belt, it's very common to not even know what high level is. It's very common to have no understanding of what high level is. Sometimes I will watch jiu-jitsu matches and it'll be 2 blue belts or it'll be 2 purple belts. And I will be able to watch and go, it doesn't even look like these guys are these 2 purple belts. It doesn't look like they're playing the same sport as the 2 purple belts that I watched at the IBJJF Worlds that competed in the semifinals, right? They're both purple belts. But the difference in skill level is so noticeable that it's like, yeah, I could show you, moves and strategies, but they might not even apply because you're almost not good enough for them to apply. And it's kind of a discouraging way to start an episode if you are going, well, that is what it feels like for me. So that is, to me, the big point. You could buy a Josh McKinney chest over chest seminar, which is available at simplifyingjujitsu.com, and watch it once. And you're a white belt and you go, okay, well, I picked up some moves that Josh does from this and I'm going to start to try them. And maybe they work for you and maybe they're good. And you go 2 years and you become so much better. And then you watch that seminar again, because when you purchase it on simplifyingjujitsu.com, you have lifetime access to it. And so when you watch that seminar again 2 years later, you go, wow, I got more out of it this time, even though I've seen that content before, because you weren't at the right place to consume the content yet. You weren't good enough to consume the content. And then 5 years later, you watch it again. You're a brown belt, you're a black belt. And you go, man, I know all this stuff. I've trained all this stuff before. Maybe I'll watch it. I'm bored. I miss seeing Josh when he used to have long hair. I hate that he cut off all his hair. Maybe we'll just stare at Josh for an hour and 30 minutes when he used to have long hair. And you do this. And maybe you get even less things out of the instructional. But there's one sentence, and it makes everything better. It makes everything make more sense. And then you can apply that sentence, because that sentence was just this missing piece in your understanding of jiu-jitsu. And so the kind of big picture item is, and this is how I've always explained it to my students. I've always used, I really think since I was a purple belt, I've used this analogy, is you can ask me a question about a knee cut, and I can give you my answer today. And then 5 years from now, you could ask me the exact same question, and I could give you a totally different answer. Does that have to mean that I was wrong then and I'm right now? To me, the answer is no. That is not what that means. I've just gotten better. I just understand deeper. I could have given you the right answer both times. It's just one answer maybe is simpler, maybe it's easier for you to consume, maybe it's easier for you to implement. And maybe the other one isn't. And so when we love to do this thing, when it comes to jiu-jitsu training, I last time I talked about this, Amanda, one of the tag team black belts, messaged me about it and was like, hey, you said that we shouldn't be so two-sided on things. And then she goes, and, but what about Die Hard being a Christmas movie? And I was like, dang, Amanda, you got me. Okay, that one thing we can be two-sided on. But everything else in jiu-jitsu is this idea that there is more than one answer. And so we need to stop focusing on the answer is right or wrong, or you are great or you suck, right? We all suck when you compare us to Gordon Ryan, right? You look at the number 2 Nogi guy, maybe besides Felipe Pena. I know some people are saying that. I want to see that match again too. We're all on the same page. We both want to see it. But when you look at that, you say, well, maybe we all suck in that comparison. And so does that mean that we all suck at jiu-jitsu? Because compared to Joe Schmo, who has no cardio, who's never done any grappling, most of us can thrash that guy. So are we great at jiu-jitsu then? No, stop trying to put some label on it. Just do jiu-jitsu. Just focus on your own journey. Focus on you getting better. Because when you focus on incrementally getting better, that's when you get opportunity to have your mind blown by how good somebody is at jiu-jitsu. And so let's talk about 2 of the worst beatings that I have ever taken in jiu-jitsu and what I learned from them. And so the first one, and this is honestly, like, I had gotten submitted, I had lost matches quickly, but I had never not been in a match, meaning like not had a chance to come back, not had a chance. It'd be like, holy smokes, this guy is simply better than me. And that had never happened to me until my second match at brown belt. Technically, I think this might have been my third match. I want to say that my first match at brown belt was like a super fight and I won. And then my second match was at Chicago Open as my first round and I won. And I was like, oh, brown belt's easy. Brown belt's great. And then I have a match with the returning world champion at brown belt. I think he won light and we were competing at middle. But regardless, world champion in my next match, Renato Canuto. And I'm sure I've told you guys about this before. I still have nightmares about this match. But he got up so quick in the match. It was like a minute in and I was down like 13-0. I like ended up getting out of an armbar and ending up in top and close guard. And I like grab his gi, like I'm going to start to open the close guard. And I look up to see what the time is. And you can actually see it on the video. I laugh at the points because I was so shocked. I was like, holy cow, that was a whirlwind. And it was one of those things that like after the match, all the guys there with me were like, and I had good black belts there with me. It wasn't like I was just there with my students and they were like, Coach, I don't know what happened. It was like my toughest training partners and coaches were there. And they were like, wow, I don't know what happened in that match. That was nuts. And the term that I used right when he came off the mat was like, it was almost like I was trying to grasp smoke. And then every time it was just like I couldn't grasp it. And then I would overcommit. And every time I would overcommit, the smoke turned into fire. It was like his ability to get me to chase. And when you look at, I really have 2 really simple concepts that I teach a lot that are kind of what I am, as of right now, famous for. And one of them is running away. We call it excessive distance. We talk about chest over chest all the time and how that is offense. You're trying to pin the person's hips and shoulders. You go chest over chest. Well, what happens when you can't do that? What happens when they start to get a De La Riva hook and you start to get tied up and you're in half guard and they have an underhook and you're starting to notice you are in trouble? What do? You leave. You create excessive distance, right? Because you cannot do jujitsu to me when you are too far away from me. Connection is the important part of jiu-jitsu. This is the part of jiu-jitsu that you cannot do jiu-jitsu without. You have to be connected to somebody. And so in this match, I could not get connected. And so I had to start to overcommit. And when I would overcommit, it's the same idea that we talk about in one of the most famous episodes that we have on the show. And it is the idea of the blitz and the prevent. It is understanding when to go on offense, when to go on defense, and understanding what defense actually is. I never even was close to any offense because I could not touch this guy. But then every time I would overcommit, boom, I'm in trouble. And to me, that is really where that, like I started using that the next tournament. I started to go, man, if I take a step back when you do this, you can't do it anymore. And to me, that match really started to help me so much as a competitor at brown belt. It didn't help me mentally, didn't make me excited to compete again. But it also, maybe it did help me mentally. There was a little bit of like, well, it couldn't get worse than that. It couldn't get worse than submitted down 17-0 that I know of. But, maybe it could. I don't know. I'm sure somebody has a much worse loss than that. But for me, it wasn't getting much worse than that. That was the worst beating I had taken. And then we fast forward into black belt. And at black belt, I've told you guys kind of the first parts of black belt for me, I was kind of riddled with injury. And then I started to come back. And when I started to come back and I started to have some matches where I was going, I'm not as worried about these injuries that I've been dealing with. I think I can really commit to going hard. I had a match in New Orleans with a guy named Yago Souza. And to me, out of all, and there are some good matches. If you want to look at some good losses that I have, if you Google my name, you YouTube me, there are some good losses that I have. So it's some big name guys. And Yago may not be the biggest name, but to me, out of everybody I've competed against, I don't think I've competed against anybody better than that. The first time I competed against him, I played top and I did pretty well in the match. And I was like, I need to pull on this guy. I need to score early and then play top. And so that was kind of the game plan going into the next match. And so we compete again like a month later. And I pull on him and he beat me down, but it was really the fact that they had to take the 3-4 second clip of him hitting the craziest back take ever and put it on the IBJJF homepage for a month. It was, you wouldn't believe how many people would message me and be like, hey, I heard you, did you see that you were on the IBJJF homepage? Like, why would you tell me that? You see what's happening to me. Yes, I've seen it. No, I don't know what's on that. No one has told me in the last 3 weeks that they've seen me get my back take 1,000 times. But the big thing that I came off the mat on that was he was just so close to me. He was just so close to me the whole match. And as we tried to break down what was happening, why was that happening? Why did that work? Okay, well, when he steps here, you get some good control of the legs, started to realize, chest over chest. I was at the wrong distance playing jiu-jitsu almost the whole match. He was at the correct distance almost the whole match, even though it looks like I'm playing guard. If you watch that match, I think it's a 6-minute match, and you probably go, you really didn't look bad in that. Retention looked good. You really had some good offense. But the truth was, I was never close to anything offensively because he did such a good job dominating the distance. And I really, at that time, and this was only 2.5 years ago, I really wasn't aware of how much that mattered. And you fast forward to now, and all I do now is teach distance, not just in seminars. When I teach at my gym, almost all the time, the answer is distance or control. Distance or control, right? And how well you understand distance, I think, or if you understand distance well, it can make answering jiu-jitsu questions just so easy, because it is either that the person has control of you in spaces that you should not let them control, or they have a distance on you that you should not let them have, or you are attempting something at the wrong distance. Those are really the answers to most people's jiu-jitsu problems. But for me, it took a few very high risk, high reward losses to start to discover these principles, to start to go, wow, I'm really getting better at jiu-jitsu now. And so as I have continued, to push through, I have realized the beauty of how sometimes losing can make all the difference for you. Losing today can make such a difference. I was talking to one of my students just about an hour ago, and we were talking about this match that I had an overtime in that really, it didn't make sense that I had an overtime in. And that had happened to me once before. And when it happened to me once before, I let the overtime play in my head. And I was like, I shouldn't be doing this. I've already won this match. Why are we in overtime right now? And I stopped focusing on jiu-jitsu, and I lost in the overtime. And then I contrast that to now, the other match I'm referring to, where same exact situation. I'm in this overtime, and I'm like, hey, what are the rules to this thing? How in the world is my hand not getting raised? And I pushed those thoughts out immediately because I had experienced that situation before. And so there is so much value when you're training, when you're competing. There's so much value in losing sometimes, right? Ideally, you don't want it to happen. Ideally, you want it to happen once and then never again, right? But losing in a tournament, losing in a match where people are watching you, it just creates a memory, and it creates a connection to your understanding of jiu-jitsu that simply never goes away. When you can make a mistake and actually know what mistake you made, a lot of times you stop making that mistake. Or this is something that I got going to a Huron Gracie seminar years ago. He was teaching guillotines, and somebody said, yeah, I see them, but I never can finish them, and I can never hit them, and that's why I don't go for them. And he goes, but isn't seeing them and missing them the first step to getting good at them? And to me, I was like, oh, wow, it is. The first step to getting good at something is generally trying it when you're not good at it, is generally losing. And so as I kind of, look back on the jiu-jitsu career for me, I just go, man, that's a big reason why I still compete today, is because I am still healthy enough and at an age that I am allowed to get to compete against the best guys in the world. And if I beat them, yes, then I just beat one of the best guys in the world, and that's cool. And that's what I want to be doing. But if I lose to them, well, what jiu-jitsu did the best guy in the world have that he could try against me that worked, right? Because I'm stealing that idea. If it works, I'm using it. And so I really didn't even pay attention to how long this episode is. But I think that is actually where I'll leave you guys today. Not a super long episode, but I think just a fun one, just something a little bit different. And like I said, next week, we are going to start some pretty different episodes. I have like 4 planned, and I'll tell you guys what they all are once we go to the outro, and I'll just give you a little information about what the next few weeks of I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show will be while I am getting my son ready to do his first podcast, And that's all I have for you guys. Let's turn it over to Josh to close us out. And that is the episode. do not forget, I didn't do a commercial in this episode because I just kind of tied the commercial into the episode. But don't forget, we are still selling the chest over chest seminar that I taught. I taught at Watson Martial Arts just about a month ago now. And we also have a few additions to that seminar. I also have another, actually, it was the seminar that I taught for my diaper party. It is this idea called the pinch. And it is just this principle of upper body control that works so well with chest over chest. And so I made sure to combine those two things. And then I also have another, I think, 10-minute video on deflecting frames and how to do that and what that means. And so there really is so much good content on this chest over chest seminar. It is only available at simplifyingjujitsu.com. But that being said, let's talk about what else we have going on in the show. Like I said, next week, we're going to start our I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show rash guard gi collaboration with Impose Will. And so I know that you guys are going to love these. I love the gi and how it turned out. It's kind of similar to the gis that I've been wearing this year, but also kind of different. And so I'm really excited about it. I really think that people are going to really like these gis. And everybody I talk to about the shorts, about the rash guards, they say the same thing. These are the most comfortable shorts and rash guards I've ever wore. Everybody says it, and it's because Adam Meredith actually put a lot of time and thought into developing them. I am not exaggerating when I say that I was on his podcast, Outside Perspective, at one point, and he comes up and he's like, hey, can I show you these shorts? And he showed me what are called the free flow shorts. And it was the first one of the early renditions of them. And he's like, I'm like, oh, dude, these are awesome. And he's like, I hate them. I hate this. I hate this. This is ridiculous. We've got to do this. And he had all these changes. I'm like, oh, wow, this guy's crazy. And it literally was a year later that they actually released the shorts. This dude himself spent a year doing research and development on these shorts. And so it is no surprise that they are not only the coolest looking shorts when you get the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show logo on them, but they are also just the most comfortable shorts. I wear mine as everyday shorts all the time instead of just jiu-jitsu shorts. But be sure to check those out. That being said, what else do we have planned for the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show? So I told you guys about the Jiu-Jitsu Is series. And so how it is going to work is I have 4 different things that are what Jiu-Jitsu is kind of like. And people really like, when I look back on the episodes that people love the most of the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show, solo episode wise, people talk about the Blitz episode so much. Just how understanding strategy in a round can help you beat somebody who's better than you. And really, I think that a big reason that people loved that episode so much was because of the Blitz analogy, meaning because we used a lot of NFL professional football analogies in that episode. And it's almost like that idea where we talk about how you get good at anything. You connect it to something you already know. And so since some people know professional football, it will be really fun for them to get to hear an episode talking about jiu-jitsu strategy and talking about managing the clock and talking about scoring early and all these other things that are very important in professional football. Except we're going to talk about it in a jiu-jitsu setting. We're going to take what you know and what you enjoy and what entertains you, and we're going to combine it with your jiu-jitsu understanding. And so I have a few other episodes. We have Jiu-Jitsu is Pro Wrestling. That will be a very fun one where we talk about kind of branding, we're going to talk about what jiu-jitsu promoters could be doing better. And it is not the rule set. And so many people think it's the rule set. Oh, if I would sell more tickets, it would be more exciting if we changed the rule set. And the truth to me is it is not that. And I'll explain why I think that. the nerdiest episode ever, and this will be coming out next Thursday. And as nerdy as it is, and as embarrassing as it is, and as much as I shouldn't post it because you guys will be like, oh, I thought Josh was cool. I don't care. And I am so excited about the episode. It's already been recorded. And so I do have nice long hair for this one because it's very important that I do. But I have an episode next week called Jiu-Jitsu is Dragon Ball Z. And so I'm really excited to talk about my favorite animated show of all time and give some thoughts on Goku's journey and thoughts on your jiu-jitsu journey. And I'm really excited about that. That should be really fun. It is over the top nerdy. If you have any respect for me, or if you have never seen Dragon Ball Z, I wouldn't listen to that episode. But if you don't have any respect for me, and you love Dragon Ball Z, then it's the episode for you. And then we'll have one more Jiu-Jitsu is episode. I can't tell you guys what it is. It is a secret, but that'll be the 4th one, and I should be back after that. I think I'll tie in a few more repost episodes. I know that I'm going to do an episode next, not this coming Tuesday, but the one after. Wait, no, it is this coming Tuesday with the head of my affiliation, Jared Weiner. He's going to be back on the show eventually, and I just thought I would make sure I got to introduce you guys to him from an episode that we did really early on that I know didn't get the number of listens that it kind of should have. And so we'll get into that one too. And I think it'll be the first time that episode has video along with it. The last time I posted it was back when the podcast was audio only, and somehow I was able to find the archived video of that one, and you guys will get to see that one. But that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode, and I hope that today's episode helps you guys suck just a little bit less at jiu-jitsu. Have a great day, guys.